12 years ago, she stopped looking at the sky. It wasn't something she decided in one dramatic moment. It happened slowly. First, she stopped checking flight schedules. Then she stopped visiting the airfield outside town. After that, she moved to a quiet place where the loud sound of jets was rare. When planes did pass overhead, she would pause for half a second, then force herself to keep walking. Now she lived a simple life. She worked at a small aviation repair shop near the highway. Most days she fixed small engines, tuned propellers, and helped weekend hobby pilots who flew light aircraft for fun. Her hands were steady. Her movements were careful. She rarely spoke about herself. The younger mechanics thought she was just another skilled technician. They noticed the way she could take apart an engine faster than anyone else. They joked that she probably had some secret past as a race car driver or engineer. She would just smile and say nothing. In her small apartment, there were no medals on the wall, no framed photographs in uniform, no flight helmets on display. The only hint of her past was a plain metal box in the back of her closet. It stayed closed. It had stayed closed for 12 years. Every morning, she woke up before sunrise. She made coffee and stood by the window. The sky at that hour was soft and pale. Sometimes, when the clouds were just right, she would feel a familiar pull in her chest. It felt like missing something you once loved but chose to let go. She told herself it was for the best. 12 years earlier, she had been one of the best fighter pilots in the country. She had trained under the most demanding instructors. She had flown aircraft that most people only saw in movies. In the sky, she had been calm, sharp, almost fearless. Her call sign had been known across squadrons, but something had happened. On a classified mission. Something that changed how she looked at the sky. The details never appeared in the news. No public reports explained it. Officially, it was just another operation. Unofficially, it left her carrying a weight she never spoke about. After that mission, she handed in her wings. People tried to stop her. Commanders reminded her of her record. Fellow pilots told her she was too good to walk away. But she had already made her choice. She wanted quiet. She wanted normal. She wanted to forget the sound of warning alarms and the pressure of split-second decisions. So she disappeared into civilian life. At the repair shop, a small radio usually played old music in the background. One afternoon, while she was adjusting the fuel line of a small plane, the song was suddenly interrupted by a news bulletin about military exercises happening off the coast. She froze for a second. The announcer mentioned advanced fighter jets, participating in drills. Her hands tightened around the wrench. She forced herself to breathe and continued working. Later that evening, as she locked up the shop, a distant roar rolled across the sky. 2 fighter jets streaked overhead, leaving thin white lines behind them. Everyone else stopped to look up in excitement. She didn't. She kept her eyes on the ground and walked to her car. At home, she heated leftover soup and sat at the small kitchen table. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. She reached for her phone, then stopped. There was no one she wanted to call. The metal box in her closet seemed heavier tonight, even though she hadn't touched it. Around 9:17 p.m., her phone vibrated against the table. The number on the screen was unfamiliar. No caller ID. Just a long string of digits. She almost ignored it. Almost. Something in her gut told her not to. She answered slowly, saying nothing at first. On the other end, there was a brief pause. Then a steady voice spoke. "We wouldn't be calling if it wasn't serious." Her fingers tightened around the phone. "There's an aircraft in trouble," the voice continued. "An F-22. And the pilot just used a code we haven't heard in 12 years. Silence filled her kitchen. The voice lowered slightly. "He's asking for you." She did not answer right away. The words stayed in the air between her and the voice on the phone. An F-22, a code from 12 years ago asking for her. "That's not possible," she said quietly. "We confirmed it twice," the man replied. His tone was calm, but she could hear pressure behind it. The pilot transmitted the old emergency phrase, the one you created during advanced combat training. Her chest felt tight. That code had never been written into official manuals. It had been something she used during a specific type of mission when communication systems were jammed. Only a handful of pilots had ever trained with it. How would he even know that? She asked. He doesn't, the man said. That's the problem. He found it in archived training files. He said it was the only thing that matched what's happening to him. She stood up from the kitchen table and walked toward the window. Outside, the night was still. A few street lights flickered. Everything looked normal. But somewhere far away, a jet was in trouble. "What's his situation?" she asked. There was a short pause before the answer. "Partial system failure. Radar interference. He's near restricted airspace. Weather conditions are unstable. He's young, talented, but inexperienced under this kind of pressure." She closed her eyes. She could picture the cockpit, the warning lights, the feeling of isolation at high altitude when systems begin to fail one by one. "And you think I can fix that from the ground?" she said. "We don't just want you on the ground." That sentence made her turn away from the window. "No," she said immediately. "I don't fly anymore." "We know. Then why are we even having this conversation?" "Because he's following your old maneuver pattern," the man said. "Exactly. Down to the timing. It's like he studied your flight recordings." She felt something shift inside her. Not pride, not ego. Something closer to responsibility. The man continued. "He's trying to stabilize the aircraft using your emergency descent method, but he's misjudging the crosswind. If he keeps correcting the way he is, he'll lose control." Her mind started calculating without permission. Angles, altitude, speed, wind resistance. 12 years had passed, but the knowledge hadn't left her. "Put me on the live feed," she said softly. There was the sound of shuffling on the other end, then static, faint voices, the low hum of a control room, and then she heard it. Breathing. Fast. Controlled, but strained. A young voice came through. The speakers. "Control, I'm getting unstable readings again. Left panel's flickering. I can't get a clean lock on navigation." She felt her fingers press harder against the phone. "Altitude?" someone in the background asked. "Dropping." "Trying to correct." The man on the line spoke to her quietly. "He's at the edge of safe recovery range." She listened to the pilot's breathing. She recognized that sound. It was the sound of someone trying to stay calm while fear slowly creeps in. She leaned against the wall. "He doesn't need another voice shouting numbers at him," she said. "He needs someone to simplify it." "That's why we called you." Silence again. The pilot's voice returned lower this time. "Control, I don't think I'm getting out of this." That sentence hit her harder than she expected. For a moment, she wasn't standing in her apartment anymore. She was back in another cockpit, years ago, with alarms screaming and a sky that felt too small. She opened her eyes. "Where is he?" she asked. 2 hours from the nearest base. She looked toward the closet where the metal box sat hidden. "I made a promise," she said. "I know," the man replied. "But he's up there alone." She took a slow breath. For 12 years, she had avoided the sky. Now the sky was calling her back. She did not remember packing her bag. One moment, she was standing in her apartment, staring at the closed closet door. The next, she was pulling the metal box out and setting it on the bed. Dust lifted into the air as she opened it. Inside lay her old flight gloves, slightly worn at the fingertips, a folded uniform, a patch with her call sign stitched across it. She touched the fabric carefully, as if it might disappear. Her phone was still on the table, the line open. "I'll need transport," she said. There was no celebration on the other end, just a quiet, steady reply. "Already on the way." The drive to the airbase felt longer than it should have. She sat in the back seat of a plane vehicle, watching city lights fade into darkness. Her reflection in the window looked older than she remembered. 12 years had added lines to her face, but her eyes were the same, focused, awake. When the gates of the base opened, something inside her tightened. The smell of jet fuel in the air brought back memories she had buried deep. The sound of engines warming up vibrated through the ground. Inside the operations building, young officers moved quickly between screens and radios. Some of them glanced at her without recognition. To them, she was just a civilian in a borrowed jacket. Then an older commander stepped forward. His hair had more gray now, but his posture was still straight. He didn't hesitate. He saluted her. The room grew quiet for a moment. She returned the salute out of instinct, her arm moving smoothly. "Despite the years, situation?" she asked. "Still unstable," the commander said. "He's holding altitude barely. Weather is shifting fast." She stepped toward the large screen showing live flight data. Numbers moved across it. Wind speeds, coordinates, fuel levels. Her mind locked in. "His corrections are too sharp," she said. "He's fighting the aircraft instead of guiding it." "You think he can still recover?" someone asked. "Yes," she answered without doubt. "But not alone." The commander studied her face. "We can assign you to remote guidance." She shook her head slightly. "No, the delay will cost him seconds. He needs visual reference. He needs formation support." The room understood what she was saying. "You haven't flown in 12 years, one young officer said carefully. She looked at him, not offended. "I never stopped being a pilot." Minutes later, she stood in the locker room, changing into a flight suit provided by the base. It wasn't hers, but it felt familiar. The weight of it settled on her shoulders like something she had set down only yesterday. She walked across the tarmac toward a standby jet prepared for rapid response. The ground crew worked quickly, but there was a quiet respect in their movements. As she climbed the ladder and lowered herself into the cockpit, her hands rested on the controls. For a brief second, doubt tried to surface. 12 years. But muscle. Memory answered before fear could speak. The helmet came down. The world narrowed to instruments and sky. "Control, this is Ghost," she said, using the call sign she had not spoken in over a decade. Her voice was calm, steady. There was a pause in the control room before the reply came. "Ghost, you are cleared for takeoff." The engines roared to life beneath her. The vibration ran through her chest. The runway lights stretched ahead in straight lines. She pushed forward. The jet surged down the runway and lifted into the night sky. As the ground fell away, something inside her clicked back into place. Up ahead, miles away, a young pilot was still fighting to keep his aircraft steady. She adjusted her heading and climbed higher. "Hang on," she whispered into the dark sky. She was coming. The sky was darker at higher altitude. Clouds rolled beneath her like moving shadows, and lightning flickered in the distance. Her jet cut through the night with steady force, engines humming with controlled power. "Ghost, you are 20 minutes out," Control said in her headset. "Copy," she replied. On another channel, she could hear the young pilot again. His breathing was heavier now. "My left stabilizer isn't responding smoothly," he said. "I'm getting delay on correction." She switched frequencies. "This is Ghost," she said calmly. "You're not alone anymore." There was a brief silence. Then a surprised voice answered, "Ghost." "That call sign is archived." "Focus," she said gently. "Tell me your altitude." He gave her the numbers. "Good, you're still flying." "That's what matters," she said. "Stop fighting the stick. Ease your movements. Think of it like guiding a boat, not wrestling it." She remembered her own instructor telling her something similar many years ago. Simple words cut through panic. "I'm trying," he said. I know, she answered. You're doing better than you think. Her radar picked up his signal ahead, a small blinking mark in a wide black sky. Visual in 2 minutes, she told Control. The weather grew rougher. The jet trembled slightly as it crossed into unstable air. She adjusted her angle smoothly. Every movement was measured, calm. And then she saw him. The F-22 appeared through thin clouds, its lights flickering slightly. The aircraft dipped unevenly before correcting again. "I've got you," she said softly. The young pilot let out a breath that sounded almost like relief. She moved her jet into formation beside him, keeping a safe but close distance. "Match my speed," she instructed. "Don't stare at your failing panel. Look at me. Use my position as reference." He hesitated for a fraction of a second, then adjusted. "That's it," she said. "Small corrections. Trust the aircraft." Suddenly, a warning tone sounded. In her own cockpit. "Radar interference. Control, we're getting signal disruption," she reported. "Storm cell moving through your grid," Control replied. "Stay steady." The F-22 wobbled again. "I'm losing clean readings," the young pilot said, panic creeping back into his voice. "Listen to me," she said firmly but calmly. "Forget the screens for 10 seconds. Look outside, match my wing, breathe in and out." She exaggerated her own steady breathing so he could hear it. The jet beside her stabilized slightly. "Good," she said. "You're flying the aircraft. It's not flying you." A strong gust hit both jets. Her hands moved instantly, correcting without hesitation. The years away had not erased that instinct. In that moment, she remembered the mission 12 years ago, the flashing alarms, the choice she had made that saved others but cost her peace. She had blamed herself for too long, but tonight was different. Tonight she was not running from the sky. She was guiding someone through it. "Fuel status?" she asked. "Low but manageable," he replied. "We're turning back toward base," she said. "Stay with me." They shifted direction together, two silhouettes cutting through cloud and darkness. The storm slowly thinned behind them. "Ghost," Control said. "You've cleared the worst of it." She glanced at the young jet beside her. It was steadier now, stronger. "You're doing it," she told him. "Just keep following." For the first time since takeoff, she allowed herself a small smile inside the helmet. The sky had not forgotten her, and she had not forgotten how to lead someone safely home. The base lights appeared in the distance like a quiet promise. Runway beams cut through the dark, steady and welcoming. After the storm and the unstable air, the sight felt almost unreal. "Control, we have visual on base," she said. Runway cleared. "You are priority," Control replied. She glanced at her fuel gauge, lower than she liked, but enough. She had calculated carefully on the way back. There was no room for mistakes now. The young pilot's voice came through again, steadier than before. "I'm still getting minor lag on response." "That's fine," she answered. "You don't need perfect. You just need stable. Stay on my wing." They began their descent together. The ground slowly rose to meet them. City lights stretched far beyond the base, calm and unaware of what had nearly been lost in the sky above. "Gear down on my mark," she said. 3, 2, 1. "Both," aircraft responded. The sound of shifting metal filled her headset. "Good," she said. "Keep your glide smooth. Don't rush it." She lowered her own landing gear and felt the familiar shift in weight. For a moment, she noticed how natural everything felt. The angles, the timing, the silence between instructions. The runway rushed closer. "Eyes forward," she reminded him. "You're bringing her home." His breathing was controlled now. The young jet touched down first. There was a brief bounce, then steady contact. Sparks flashed lightly as tires gripped the runway. The aircraft slowed, rolling safely forward. "You're down," Control confirmed. Relief filled the radio channel. She followed seconds later. Her own landing was firm but smooth. As her jet slowed along the runway, a quiet wave passed through her chest. Not pride, not glory, just peace. They taxied to a stop near the hangar. Ground crews moved quickly but without panic now. When she lifted her helmet, cool night air rushed in. She climbed down the ladder slowly. Across the tarmac, the young pilot stepped out of his cockpit. He removed his helmet with shaking hands. His face was pale, but his eyes were clear. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he walked toward her. "I thought I was done up there," he admitted quietly. "You weren't," she said. "You just needed to breathe." He nodded. "They told me you left flying years ago." "I did. Then why come back?" She looked past him toward the runway lights still glowing behind them. "Because someone called," she answered simply. The older commander approached, stopping a few feet away. There was respect in his expression. "You proved something tonight," he said. "Not just to him, to all of us. There's still a place for you here." She knew what he was offering without him saying it directly. A return, a uniform, a title she once carried. For a second, the thought tempted her. The sky had felt right again. The cockpit had felt like home. But she had also learned something in those 12 years away. "I don't need the position," she said gently. "There are others ready for that. He's one of them." The young pilot looked surprised. She turned to him. "Next time, trust your training sooner, and trust yourself." He gave a small, grateful smile. As the crews rolled the aircraft back toward the hangars, she stepped aside and looked up. The storm had passed completely. The sky was clear now. Quiet. Wide. 12 years ago, she had buried that part of her life because she believed it had only brought loss. Tonight reminded her of something different. The sky was never about fear. It was about responsibility. About guiding others when they needed it most. She handed her borrowed helmet to a technician and began walking toward the exit gate. Behind her, engines powered down. Ahead of her, the road waited. She didn't know if she would ever sit in a fighter, jet again. But as she stepped beyond the base lights and into the calm night, she realized something important. She had never truly left the sky. She had simply been waiting for the right reason to return.
Thanks for watching my video. Like, subscribe and share.